Concordia University to present their project, AWG-V Farm.
Hi everyone, we are the AWG-V team. I'm Ariel.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Vala.
And Alex cannot be here today. Water is a topic of major concern. Around 4 billion people live with extreme water scarcity for at least 1 month each year, representing half of the world's population. In South Africa, for instance, droughts are common, with the West Coast getting less than 300 millimeters of annual rainfall. The country's aridity is responsible for substantial losses of water, putting the country in a constant deficit. Estimates suggest that more than 91% of rain is lost, never making it into rivers and streams. Additionally, it is rural farmers who pay the highest price, struggling to feed their families and dealing with other consequences such as violence against women. The role of collection often falls on women, and it's reported that girls are regularly abducted and raped while making these trips, some even coerced in a child marriage. This is a reality no one should live with. Nonetheless, the country has great potential for fog harvesting. Several experiments have shown that fog occurs frequently, getting over 100 fog days per year, and tending to occur during seasons when rain is most scarce. These setups supported communities, schools, and even small-scale agriculture. Additionally, fog harvesters have already been established in South Africa, such as in Lepelfontein and South Pansberg, but none of these have been directly paired with farming practices. Therefore, our solution is the atmospheric water generating vertical farm, also known as the AWG-V Farm. Atmospheric water generation is a sustainable process because it targets a renewable source of water. The atmosphere is estimated to contain 12.9 cubic kilometers of water at any moment, which is renewable because that which is removed is naturally replenished. The device would function by harvesting water at the top by use of a specialized netting, which would then drain into the storage compartment at the center. The water could then be used to water plants in the vertical farm. The estimated cost of one unit is 575 Canadian dollars. Countries like South Africa suffer from climate change impacts like water scarcity, yet are not largely responsible for them. For instance, in 2021, Canada and the US almost doubled South Africa in terms of per capita carbon dioxide emissions, yet do not suffer from the consequences of these actions in nearly the same manner. Thus, it is our duty to help repair at least some of this damage.
The UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our solution addresses goal number 2, because the AWG-V Farm is a sustainable water efficient system that grows food in a vertical position, not taking up space from traditional farms. It would provide vulnerable people with healthy foods such as vegetables and beans for protein. Also, goal number 6, water unit can trap clean water from the atmosphere, unlike water from dams or ponds, which contain bacteria because of animal defecation in them, algae, which can be poisonous to humans. Furthermore, it can influence goal number 4. A child can learn better with food and proper nutrition. And also goal number 15, with farms growing up instead of out, we give the land back to wildlife and creating better biodiversity. Currently, we are collaborating with several people to implement our unit in South Africa. Rowan Duplessis works as a ranger and safari guide in the provinces of Mpumalanga and Sabi Sands. Rowan introduced us to Lotus Koza, who is currently the CEO and founder of the Impact Foundation, who helps out rural people in growing farms, having hippo rollers, and also for startup businesses. Lotus is also involved with the African Foundation and Beyond, and also Team Frank Africa. And the founder and creator of Team Frank Africa is Kimmy Shadell, and she is currently collaborating with us to help us, to advise us on coaching and also in fundraising.
In this project, our users are actually rural South African households that don't have the access to water on their property, and they will be receiving our technology free of charge, as about 60% of the population living below poverty line is found in rural areas, whereas our customers are actually sponsors ranging from crowdfunding to corporate donations. Our short-term plan featuring year one is to assemble a full-scale prototype to create social media and website presence and to apply for a charity status. Our featured budget for this year is 7,645 Canadian dollars. Our long-term strategy is to create a series of fundraisers, approach corporate donors, and to test 15 prototypes in South African households, as well as to start looking for a production facility. Our featured budget for this year is 11,475 Canadian dollars. Should our team win the WCC competition, the funds will be used to sponsor a team's trip to South Africa to collect quality site and user data, as well as to expand our connections with local stakeholders and expedite our charity foundation application, which will help us receive steady inflow of funds sooner. And now we're moving on to target audience. Our target group is low-income, rural South African subsistence households of 4 that don't have the access to running water on their property, and women and children are forced to fetch water from unimproved water sources. Over 3.8 million people in rural parts of South Africa alone struggle with water scarcity, or over 182 hours per year per person is spent fetching water. Instead, our solution will eliminate as much of the need to fetch water, and instead give people the opportunity to get more time to quality education and women empowerment. Thank you, and we may now take your questions.
Great job, Team Concordia. Over to our judges for questions.
Great idea. My husband and I support an orphanage in Uganda, and we totally understand, even with the malaria presentation, the issues around this. I'm curious if you know your cost of good yet for this product. I know you don't have a prototype yet, but do you know what the cost will be, and is it something that would be up to,
Yes, so to answer your questions, we were looking at the locally sourced materials to eliminate the cost of transportation and also to support environment by not burning fossil fuel as well, transporting goods. So these prices that you see on the screen right now are actually, we search in collaboration with our partners currently in Africa within the local department stores. The prices that you see here are converted into Canadian dollars. Additionally, there is some organizations that we're currently reaching out to, and hopefully we'll collaborate on the netting part, which is potentially going to bring down a little bit the cost of the prototype as well.
Okay, amazing. I'm very impressed. And one last question was just, so the water is produced by fog harvesting. Is
Exactly.
that something that's guaranteed across the whole country of Africa, or is it just region specific that would be able to happen?
So fog is something that is not available across the whole country, unfortunately. It is very much limited to the western coast as well as certain areas in the northeastern side, which actually works really well for us, because if we go back to the map from earlier, the rest of the country actually receives a good bit of rain, and it's the areas that are the driest, especially the western coast here, that tend to receive the most fog, because they actually have a mountain range here that brings in a lot of coastal fog, and in this area as well they get a good bit of fog. So it's not everywhere in the country, but it's in the areas that matter, I guess you could say.
A very interesting project. I like the idea of manufacturing locally and engaging other stakeholders as well. My most critical question is, obviously, there is a price for water, and there is an alternative use, and we know that there are a lot of black markets for any goods that are supported by nonprofits. I was interested in your thoughts about whether or how expensively this water could be diverted from the growing of crops for food and sold at a premium price to neighbors.
Currently, we're involved with local people in South Africa. Lotus Koza is one of them, and he's been involved with projects like And Beyond, which is a safari guide, and they're very well known. And also African Foundation. They're one of the largest NGOs in Africa, and we also have been connected with them. So they will guarantee the safety of our water, makes it to the rural people, because we will have Lotus coordinating on the front line, and he will designate down to his men, and strictly that men, and he's very protective of those communities.
What a fabulous project. And I think I was not aware of kind of the social implications of women fetching water. It's very, just a huge problem that I had absolutely no idea about. I'd like to talk a little bit about, you're talking about $575 as your current cost per unit. And again, if there is applicability here to subsistence farming, how much water actually would be produced from this over a period of a year? Maybe I just didn't interpret the charts, but I wonder if you could link that to me. Okay. So you were talking about, call it 60 liters of water a day?
Yeah, so according to the previous fog harvesters that have been established, they were able to produce something between, in South Pansberg, like 3 liters per square meter of mesh per day, and then in Lepelfontaine, 4.5 liters per square meter per day. So we kind of utilize, and this is what their fog harvesting setups looked like. So based off of this previous information, because we have not had the chance to test a prototype just yet to give a very finite answer, we estimate that we could, produce between 45 to 67.5 liters of water per day just with the 15 square meters of mesh netting that we plan to use. Okay,
and this would be sufficient to support a farming operation of what sort of size? I mean, these are subsistence farmers, so we're not talking about a whole lot of acreage at this point.
Currently, I'm working with one of my professors who's a geochemist, and he works presently in the Arctic. So he's helping me to calculate the exact fog and the exact the mesh netting that will entrap the fog. And we will be concentrating on the weather patterns in the area. So we're trying to calculate a very precise number from that.
Okay.
And to add quickly, the water that we plan to collect could definitely be used for other purposes as well. But our primary objective, I guess you could say, would be to allow them to farm in our vertical farm, or in their vertical farm, right, and ideally have an excess of water that could be used for other purposes.
Sure, but also potable water for their own needs.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Team Concordia and AWG-V Farm. We'll give our judges a few moments to